Okay, I think we are live. My name is Jakub. Welcome to Zeist Programming. And today I'm pretty excited because I will be building a Next.js application and with Saleor API. And I will be supervised by two excellent guests, Lee Robinson from Vercel, head of DevRel, and Patryk Zawadzki, CTO at DevRel. So thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for supervising me and maybe teaching me some tricks about Next.js, Saleor, GraphQL, TypeScript, or any other topic that will come up in this discussion. So before we start building it up, I wanted to ask you like a general, I'd like to start a general discussion. So yesterday when we were testing this setup, this live stream setup, we were wondering with Patryk about how the web changed in the last 10 years or maybe more. And when I was starting creating web applications for the web, I remember it was like changing something in a PHP file, sending it over FTP, and it worked. It was very easy to make those changes, but it was a little bit brittle. And now it seems that Next.js is somehow as easy as this like change 15 or maybe 20 years ago, but it has those additional features. It has those like good practices, and I was wondering your perspective on this, and I wanted to ask you firstly how you feel about the changes and evolution of web development and what Next.js brings here. And
when I look at my history in my career building web applications, I'm just amazed at how far we progressed to today and how far you can get with the tools that exist, whether it's Next.js or others in the ecosystem, for not only building great web applications, but ones that are performant, they are accessible, and they can scale really large. The amount of tooling that is included out of the box in solutions like this now makes it easier than ever for people to start their own e-commerce store, start making money online in some way. So I'm really excited about the vision of web dev in the future.
Patryk, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I funny to mention, but I used to be that PHP developer 20 years ago, someone who only knew PHP and Total Commander or Windows Commander, as it used to be called. And yeah, editing files in production because there was no other environment, because why would you need one? And I think it's important to ask ourselves why we did it that way, because I don't think anyone preferred to break stuff in production. But it was so complex to replicate that environment locally, something that we type npm start right now and get out of the box. Like just having things working was so complex that there was simply no other way we even thought about. Like it was natural to edit it in production because it worked there, and no one else could get it to work on their own laptop easily. And now with tools like Next.js, with open source stacks that you can just run on your local machine, that all of this has changed now. And I think some of the problems we're solving now are problems that we've invented along the way, because they are related to all of the tools that we had to build to be here. But those problems are solved easily with starter packs, with the Create Next app, Create React app, and so on. So I'm very excited about where we are today, and I would never trade with myself 20 years ago, and I would never go back to editing PHP in production.
So recently, Vercel, the creator of Next.js, raised another round of funding. So congratulations to the whole team. And there was this phrase, "Make web faster," as a motto. Can I say it like that, or as a slogan? Yeah. And I was like thinking about this and wondering, because Next.js excels at making certain things faster. There is a lot of interesting features like your collaboration with Google around the images and all that. But I was also wondering, does this motto also refers somehow to the fact that Next.js allows you to make application faster? Like it's simpler now. You can also, put together different pieces, and instantly you can have an app, and then you can deploy it on Vercel, for example, which additionally makes you even more productive. So I was wondering if it's also about performance and the easiness of use.
Yeah, it's kind of the slogan or phrase is kind of a play on words in making the web, building the web, and at the same time also trying to make it faster as well too. As you mentioned, thank you first off. As you mentioned with the funding, one of the things that we're really planning to do is build the SDK for the web. We want to create not only the framework, but the components and the platform that enable these teams and these companies and these customers to build incredible experiences on the web that are fast and accessible and easy to use, and enable people to, build things that might have been more difficult, not possible before. I think it is really aligned with not only helping people build apps, but giving them the optimizations and the tools and the defaults to make them fast by default.
So I was also, when I posted this event on Reddit, there was some comments, and one of them mentioned that it's also interesting to see that you can do this kind of stuff with a company which is open source. And this applies to Vercel, and this applies to Saleor. And I wanted to ask for your perspective, how easy or difficult it is to create something for the users at the same time being an open source company. And there is also a follow-up question to that. How do you convince your clients to use open source?
Yeah, Next.js started over 5 years ago now, really as a function of a problem that the Vercel team had, which is they needed a framework that gave them a certain outcome. It was less about the technology and more about the experience they were trying to build. They needed pre-rendered pages. They wanted to craft this amazing experience on the dashboard for the product that they were building. And that led to the inception of the open source framework. Now, from the start, Vercel and Next.js mission with Next.js is that, regardless of where you host it, whether it's a Node.js server on, your own infrastructure, your own rack, or in some cloud provider, things work out of the box, image optimization, all these features that we spend time to build. We have good defaults, and then we have the extensibility and the configurability to take that to the next level. If I want to do image optimization with Cloudinary, that's possible. If I want to do it with my own homegrown optimization provider, that's also possible. So having this mindset of empowering open source communities with good defaults and things that work out of the box, and then also having additional services on top for enterprise customers or people who want to take it a little bit further and not manage that infra themselves, has been a pretty good strategy for us as a whole.
Interesting. And Patryk, what's your perspective on open source, running an open source company and then convincing clients to use it?
Our story is actually quite similar because around 10 years ago, we've started a side project at our previous company that out of necessity, basically, like the Vercel team. So we've created a tool that solved our own problem first, and then we've decided to open source it. This is what later became Saleor. This was not Saleor yet, but we wanted to solve a problem, and then we wanted to give back to the community because we are very open source focused. We rely from day one on a lot of open source software, and we want to give back to the community, as I've said. So we've open sourced that, and then we kept building on top of it, and then we've decided that this is great, but it will never become what it could be if it remains a side project. So that's where Saleor Commerce as a company started. So we're basically doing what Vercel is doing. We're building a great open source project with the focus on developers, on empowering our users, and then we're providing a host of other services for enterprise users on top of that, without taking away parts of the open source tool. which I think is key to making a great open source product. Like it can't be a demo version.
So when I started my programming career, it was like 16 years ago. It was in a bank, a large bank here in Poland, and when I wanted to use something open source, they were very against that. The only response was, is it Oracle or is it, I don't know, BIA systems or Tuxedo or something like that, like old technologies which are pretty expensive. And I wanted to ask you, how would you approach, or how would you maybe help people that work as software engineers and they want to convince their companies to use something open source like Saleor or Next.js? What would be, I wanted to start with you, Patryk. How would you,
right? So
pitch Saleor?
Yeah. What people think about when they think about open source is the price. Like, is it free, right? But I don't think this is all there is to open source. Like, there's the increased security, the transparency, and so on. But we've seen that over time, the companies that approach us are not actually looking for a free solution. They want something that solves their problem. They want something that's great. If it's open source, it just means there's no chance of a vendor lock-in, for example. Like, if we go out of business, they are not out of luck. They can continue maintaining their software stack. But yeah, there's been this, I would say, bias against open source. But I think companies like Microsoft, Amazon, they are doing a lot to show that open source is a viable way to just build software. So I don't think we need to be on the very forefront here. Like, we're following in their steps. We see the models that work. But I don't think we've needed to convince people about open source. Like you've said, it used to be that open source was the worst kind of software. It was like something that maybe barely worked, or that did not excel at usability, for example. But I don't think this is true anymore. And a lot of the problems typically tied to open source are related to the problems related with just maintaining the software when you're doing this for free. So having a company backing up an open source project unlocks a lot of solutions to those problems. And we're trying to show that open source that is backed by a company, I would say enterprise open source, as we like to call it. This is an entirely different beast.
I could say that it seems that Vercel could be one of the most successful companies, at least in the recent years. Would you agree, Lee? In terms of raising funds and being open source and providing excellent tools.
Yeah, I think the growth of open source companies, those backed by VC and those who are self-sustaining or doing their own business model, is growing exponentially on both fronts. So I'm definitely excited to see more of those type of companies join. Yeah, like Elastic, for example.
Red Hat, maybe. Could we? Do you think we could use this as an example?
Yeah, a good one of a non-VC backed one is Tailwind Labs. They've done a really great job.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe we could create an app, because we are here to create an app.
Let's do it.
Let's do some coding instead of just talking. Everyone is talking on YouTube. Let's show something. So the idea is that we will create an integration. So I would like to showcase that Next.js is very good at connecting different blocks and quickly creating an app. And the plan for this tutorial, for this live stream, would be to create something to help you with e-commerce operations. So when you're doing e-commerce, you have a shop, and in this shop you have a cart, And sometimes people go to a cart, add items to a cart, and then they drop, they abandon the cart because they are not interested in the purchase, or maybe for some reason the process is not clear for them. And today I would like we build something like that, that we see how it is possible and how easy it is to just display a list of cards for a website. And so maybe let me start with showing you the app we will be using for the purchase. And this app is built using a tool called, well, a project called Next.js Commerce. And maybe before we start, Lee, could you tell us what Next.js Commerce is?
Yeah. So one of the biggest applications we see of Next.js is e-commerce applications. In the last year, we've seen exponential growth out of e-commerce applications, and we wanted to create a high quality, high performance, all-in-one starter kit for building commerce applications. So not just a small example, but something that you could truly take and build your own store that includes everything you would need, from showing all your products, filtering, searching, product detail pages, carts, checkout, and all the while having great Lighthouse scores, great core web vitals, and excellent performance. And the great part about it is you can actually deploy one in just a few minutes. So we've reduced the complexity of what it might take to get that up and running drastically.
So let me just bring my screen. I'm not sure if it's visible. I think it should be.
Yep.
So that's the example of, so if you go to Next.js and then if you click on Commerce, you will see Next.js Commerce, the starter kit. You can clone it and deploy it on Vercel right away, and you can see the demo. So that's the demo. You can play with it. It's very nicely done. So congratulations to the whole team that created that. And
I just like to give a quick shout out to the team working on this. Belle and Luis are doing an incredible job. So shout out to them.
Shout out to them. Yeah, it's excellent. It's very well done. There is a lot of attention to details. So if you play with this, you will see that there is like a little stuff that matters. It's taken care of. And if I'm not mistaken, Next.js Commerce has several connectors. So we can use it with several backends, and one of them is Saleor. So maybe, Patryk, would you like to tell us about that?
Right, I can speak about it, but you're one of the contributors to that backend, so
yeah. So
I'm not sure why you act surprised about it existing.
I just wanted to be neutral here. So yeah, that's
right.
true. I was writing this connector, and so this is an example of Saleor, let's say, can I say fork or just instance of Next.js Commerce that is run on top of Saleor API. So if you go to the to Next.js website, you will have this, let's say, vanilla version, and here you have the one that's run with Saleor. And what else we could add here? So this website is run by an endpoint. So it's run from an instance, a cloud instance of Saleor. So maybe, Patryk, you could help me here. And if you could tell us maybe first how we could use Saleor. So there is like the Docker image, and then there is the upcoming cloud offering. Maybe we could talk about that.
Right. So the easiest way to run Saleor right now today is to run it Dockerized on a local machine. But we are working on bringing our cloud service to the public and making it open, including free developer plans, so you can get a new instance in one click. We're also working on getting an integration built between Vercel and Saleor, so you can actually deploy a new Saleor-backed storefront and a new Saleor instance with a single click. So this is something we're working on currently. This is not yet available. So the best way to get a Saleor instance running is still to run it on your local machine. if you want this as a acting as a playground. But I think for many exploratory purposes, our demo instance will serve as a good playground. We expose a GraphQL playground there. The entire Saleor project is basically a GraphQL API. So the dashboard itself is a GraphQL client. There is no backend access to that the dashboard uses. So anything that you can do through the dashboard is actually becoming a GraphQL mutation underneath. So yeah.
Maybe we could reiterate that, and just to be absolutely clear. So every e-commerce notion that exists, or maybe most of them, let's say, are coded into your GraphQL API, right? So that when you are building your shop, all those notions are already figured out for you. So there is like a notion of a cart, notion of a pricing, of variants of certain items. And instead of wasting your time of doing this on your own, you can use something like Saleor and through GraphQL to use that to your advantage to quickly either build a shop or maybe some integrations.
Exactly, but there's more to that. It's not just that we expose a schema that makes sense for commerce users. We also expose a lot of internal logic that is crucial to running a commerce business. So things like warehouse management, multi-channel commerce, and so on. Like it's not just a table for products that you can query, because that you could build in a single day, probably with tools like MongoDB maybe, and exposing it through a GraphQL API. So what we're providing is more of a commerce service that also includes a schema that is necessary to run everything, and we expose a lot of mutations and query endpoints that are targeted not towards running, building a storefront that talks to the API, but also towards building tools like the one we're going to build today, but also the dashboard and all of the tooling necessary to provide all of the back office around your storefront. So
maybe
there's more to the API than you can see by visiting either the dashboard or the storefront. That's what I'm trying to say.
Can we also say that somehow GraphQL is very easy to use in Next.js? And when I was preparing for this, there was this website. I'm not sure if Lee recognized this. It's your website.
Yes.
And Lee has this nice dashboard. So I'm not sure if this runs through GraphQL, but certainly you are querying certain APIs, either GraphQL or REST. And I was wondering your perspective on, and your website is running on using Next.js, right? So I wanted to ask you, and by the way, feel free to follow Lee on social media and check his website. It's pretty very, very well done. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So the great thing about Next.js, if you could pull up swr.vercel.app, I can show you a really neat example, because that's actually what this is using. And then on the left in the nav bar, I think there's a GraphQL one in there somewhere. Maybe not.
Please help me. I don't see it, but
okay, maybe not. Well, anyways, if you go back to the original, like the index route. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so the cool thing about this, and this is what I'm using with this library, it's essentially a React hook for fetching data, and it's agnostic to where you want to fetch your data. It could be a REST API, it could be a GraphQL API, it could be a SOAP API, it could be whatever you want. And so I've used this for GraphQL APIs as well too. And then similarly on the server with Next.js, it's unopinionated about how you fetch your data. It exposes these hooks in get static props and get server side props that say fetch your data directly from the database or from an API or however you want to get it from your Prisma client. and forward it to your component. And that's the handoff essentially. So that's one of the things I like about the Next.js APIs there.
Perfect. Okay. So let's maybe try to do an integration of GraphQL with Saleor. Before we do, I would like we check the, so maybe Patryk, first we could check the cloud instance. So I'm here logged in to a cloud instance, and maybe you could walk us through quickly through certain things or not, as you prefer.
I'm not sure if we need to do a full demo of what a store is like. So I assume you have a product or a couple of products prepared for this, or do we want to create those right now?
Yes, exactly.
So
I have a catalog of products here.
Yeah, those are assigned to a sales channel, presumably.
Yes, they are assigned to a default channel. And now I would like to show our viewers how we can use a GraphQL query to get those maybe products first through the playground. So if you start your Saleor instance, you have the GraphQL endpoint available under a GraphQL path, right? By default.
Yes, exactly. It's available for all Saleor instances, and unless you also run the dashboard, that's literally the only HTTP endpoint that exists in Saleor. So we do not serve any other data. The dashboard, as I've said, is a separate application that just happens to talk to that endpoint. Right, so but I'm not sure if our viewers will be able to see, but I know that Playground's theme configuration is broken, and that's switching to
I couldn't change it to
background.
For some reason. But let's maybe try to use it anyway. I wanted just to showcase certain things about GraphQL. So as Lee mentioned, we have, where was it? So we have this library, SWR, use as SWR, and we can form the queries, GraphQL queries. And now we just need to know how to, what we want to query. So the good thing about GraphQL is that we have this aspect of discoverability. So we can easily discover certain things. So let's say I want to list products, so I can start writing, and it will show me the types that exist in the Saleor API that are related to products and queries, and maybe even some mutations if there are any, and they are. So we can just click on this, and we can see the proper parameters, and then the response arguments and all that. So now if I start writing my query and I say products, I can, for example, get maybe first 10, and then I can start getting, for example, ID, name, and this way I fetch the products. So as you can see, this is a bathroom, songs, code division t-shirt. So it corresponds to those products we have here. So with just this very simple manipulation, we already have products available. I'm not sure if there's something to add here.
Right. As you're typing this and the autocomplete kicks in and it shows you the fields you can use, I'm having PTSD recollection of me working with SOAP interfaces before WSDL became a thing. So without a schema, trying to just poke in the dark using XML to cast spells. This is the tooling I was talking about in the beginning. Like, this is the path we took. Of course, it complicates things a lot, but it also provides a huge boon to productivity. Just being able to prototype in this manner.
Yeah. So you can quickly see what's there. You have this autocomplete. You have the docs right here, and then if you have this query, you can use a data fetching library to paste this query to make a request from Next.js to a GraphQL endpoint. And for example, you can list products, but also you can build dashboards. So for example, if you have a YouTube channel or a GitHub project or something of that sort, you can list that. And this way, like, connecting blocks with Next.js, you can very easily build something very quickly. So we want to have an application for abandoned carts. So maybe let's finally create this app, because we are talking for half an hour now and we haven't written a single line of code. So if you don't mind, I will switch to a terminal and let's create an app. So, but before we do, there's one more thing. Go to next.js.org, and here in docs, there is this setup. And Lee, I wanted to ask you, so you provide this tool called Create Next App. And this tool generates, of course, a Next.js application. We could say a template or a skeleton. But this tool also gets templates as a parameters, right? So you can use, you have a large library of examples at Vercel Next.js, and you can use them as templates for your applications. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we can, for example, if we, for example, are interested in GraphQL, we can see what is here, and there it's very extensive. If you use GraphQL with FaunaDB or React or Firebase or anything of that sort, you can quickly find a template, the official repository, and you can use that with Create Next App. So Saleor provides a tool that builds on top of this tool, on top of Create. Let me just quickly. So Saleor provides a tool that builds on top of Create Next App, and let's use it. So it's called Create Saleor App. So it generates exactly the same things as Create Next App. So it's exactly the same application, Next.js application, but it also adds certain things that are tailored or adjusted to using Next.js with Saleor. And let's try to generate that. So I will call it abandon carts.
Impossible to type with so many people looking at you.
Yeah, and I'm kind of a little bit dyslexic, and it's stressful. So
right. So maybe I can take this minute to discuss why Next is a good match here, because while Saleor itself is written in Python mostly, I think Next.js is a perfect tool to extend Saleor, because the model of extending Saleor involves writing satellite applications like microservices running around Saleor that use GraphQL to communicate with Saleor, and that sometimes need to intercept webhooks that originate from Saleor, where Saleor notifies the application about an event happening inside the core. And with the starter kit that you've shown, and the API routes that the Next.js server-side rendering engine provides, I think this is a perfect solution to this. Like, out of the box, it provides all of the tooling needed to solve the problems. The only tiny wrapper we need to provide is tools to unpack the payloads or to give you static types of the data you're going to receive. So that's why we chose Next.js and for this example, and that's why I think the Next.js starter kit is the most exciting way to build apps for Saleor.
Yeah, I think I agree. I would add that. So we have like a free ways maybe of creating Next.js apps. We have the official Create Next app, which creates this vanilla template. Then we can use the same tool with a vast library of templates, official Vercel Next.js templates. And then we can also build on top of that to maybe provide certain new things. Like in this case with Saleor, we are just setting up the connection, GraphQL connection for you, so you can use it like faster. So I just generated this app, and let me just run it. So I'm a little bit eccentric, so I will use PNPM. I don't want to go into details why I'm using that right now, but the application starts. And
but it would work with Yarn or NPM.
Of course, it will work with Yarn and NPM. And if I go to, let me just open that. So, and voila, this template, just after generating it from, from running the command line tool, we already have a Next.js application, and it fetches over the wire from a GraphQL endpoint a list of products. And this is a good starting point to create Saleor integration apps. So if you have a workflow in your domain, in this case, we are talking about e-commerce, you can this way quickly use it to create the app. So our plan for today, for the last, let's say, 25 minutes, would be to replace products with carts and see how easy it is. So maybe let's first see what this application adds on top of Next.js. So the first thing it adds is that we have this configuration of code generation. So there is this tool called CodeGen TypeScript. Let me quickly open that. And the idea is that we have a schema, a GraphQL schema, and we can, use this schema as input, and then we can generate the TypeScript types in our project automatically. And what it gives us is that we have all the notions that are used in this GraphQL endpoint available in our application. So this comes in form of auto-completion, introspection, etc. So it's very convenient to use that, and that's what's being added here with Saleor. So this is already pre-configured, and the only thing you have to change is to provide your own GraphQL endpoint, and this can be any GraphQL endpoint, not necessarily Saleor. And once we have that, this generates this large file. Well, large for large APIs. If the API is small, it would be smaller. And now, if we have a component, we can, for example, have this. So there are two things here that are worth noting. The first one is that we have a query, a GraphQL query, and we name it. So we use latest products. And because we are using Apollo client, out of the box, this code generation provides us with a hook, which is named after the query we named. So let me just be more specific here. I will open another terminal here. And if we go to package.json, this tool adds a new script, which is called generate. And it generates those TypeScript types from the schema. Let's add a watch here. And if we run it, this will be watching the changes. The first time is a little bit longer. And now if I change the name of my query here, let's call it best products, for example. If I call it best products here, after it generates, I should have an error here. And will I have an error? products. No, for some reason it doesn't work. Is this? Let's see. Okay, it works. So now I think it has to be the name of the query. And this way we can like very quickly name our queries and generate the proper hooks for them.
Yeah, the code gen stuff is amazing. I love that.
Right. So it not only generates the type information, but also the React hooks that do the necessary calls, right?
Yeah, let's repeat that once again, but because maybe it's not it wasn't clear the way I explained it. So we have this query here. This is the name of the query in Saleor API. We can then add our own name, which is a good practice because GraphQL queries should be they may be difficult sometimes to handle, and it's good to cache them. So you have to have a name. So we name the query, and then we name the variable we are using to store the query. And this name is used to generate the hook automatically by Apollo client through the code generation. So that's a very nice thing. So you are only worried about establishing the shape of your query. And once you have it, you can directly use it as a hook in your React Next.js application and display the things you fetched or mutated.
And unless I am wrong, it also highlights the query, right? Will it show you an error if you make it invalid? Like if you break the GraphQL part of the query?
Let's see. Yeah. It's not perfect.
So it's not highlighted?
It's not highlighted in VS Code, but it's highlighted in the terminal. So it says that it's missing some closing brackets. But maybe I have something I haven't configured it properly. So maybe our viewers will tell us. So there is a question here from Sean. Do you have to change the variable name or the GraphQL so it's the operation name? Just to be clear, it's the operation name. Okay, so maybe let's replace that with cards. Are you okay with that?
Nah. I like products. Yeah, but I mean, if we're going to show abandoned cards, it makes sense to query for the cards as well.
Of course.
So in terms of naming things, Saleor doesn't have a card object. We do have a checkout object though, and it represents the card and all of the assigned and associated info. So it may contain your card contents and your billing address if you've given one, or your shipping address if you've given one, or your designated delivery method, and so on. But it starts with just the products you've added. So I think what we need to query is the checkout API.
So there's a trick here as well. So if we go to the docs and I look for the checkout as you indicated,
yes,
this query is not public, if I may phrase it this way. I mean, you have to be authenticated, right, to use the
yes, and you have to be source of. I mean, you have to have additional permissions, not just authenticated. We don't want our users to enumerate what others have added to their cards, or God forbid their shipping addresses, for example, or names, emails, all of that stuff. So this API is only available to authenticated clients who also hold additional permissions. So we will need to create an application for this.
So I go to apps, and maybe could you tell us a little bit more about applications in Saleor? What's the
So applications are the satellite services, the microservices that surround the main Saleor instance. Each application has a way to communicate with the core API. So it has a token it can use to authenticate as the app. It also has a set of assigned permissions. And it may also have a bunch of webhook subscriptions or PubSub subscriptions to get notified when certain things happen within Saleor. And for those, Saleor will send either a webhook or post something in a PubSub queue. But I don't think PubSub is relevant here. So what we will need to do is create a local app, because there are two types of apps. Third-party apps are things you would install from a vendor that gives you a link and tells you, okay, click here to install the application. Local apps are things you create for your in-house integrations. So if you want to run something on premises, local app is the right way to go. You can just create an app by naming it, giving it some permissions, and Saleor will return a key you can use to authenticate against the API.
So I wonder, is it okay? I give this app, this app, Saleor app, full access, given that we have 50 people watching us, and someone can make us a joke here.
I wouldn't recommend giving any app full access unless strictly necessary. So if we could only give it access to checkouts.
To checkouts, okay. And I click save, and now I have the token.
Yeah, the token is only displayed once, so make sure you don't lose it.
Yeah, I have it. So now I provide the token as HTTP header, right? And I can use it, for example, the query variable section here at the bottom. And it's the same as with the product. So I can, for example, say I want the, let's say, 10 last carts or checkouts. And for each one, let me display ID, for example. And let's display maybe the products. So I think this will be a little bit more complicated.
Right. So, yeah.
Because we have checkouts or carts as lines, right? And lines has variants in Saleor API, and it's the variant that has the product, which has the name. And then we thumbnail.
It's a big backwards like that, but I think it makes sense if you think about it, because it's only the variant that has the SKU. That, like, the variant is the actual item that gets packed and sent when packing your order. Like, the product is a conceptual group of items. Like, it could be a T-shirt with a Zaist channel logo on it. But a green T-shirt in size S is the variant that you want to purchase. This is why it's built this way.
Roger. So now if I run it, I should have a list of carts. And now to make it abandoned, we would have to somehow filter them, right? To be sure that we want those that are older at certain date. Is this correct?
Right.
I'm not sure if we want to do it now, but for the simplicity and the fact that we have only few time, not much time left, let's leave it like that. So I will just go ahead and copy this query. So we played with the API using the docs and the auto-completion, and now we can go back to the code, and we could, for example, go ahead and replace all that. Let's call it abandoned carts. So now this should break our. For some reason, it doesn't. Oh no, it breaks. Okay, perfect. So now I use abandoned carts, but not lazy, and use abandoned carts, but not lazy. Not sure why it's like that. So now maybe let's rename this like abandoned carts, and here we should have autocomplete. So I have checkouts and edges, and maybe let's just display the ID. I will comment this for now. Just so we have the ID displayed. And let's see. Error. Because we haven't provided the authentication token in our application. We only provided it in the here.
Graphical.
Let me just quickly copy that. And
so that everyone watching the stream can also use it.
yeah,
You have
exactly.
30 minutes before that's revoked.
Exactly. So I have to be fast. So let me just think quickly. I have to change it here. So there are a few things here, and I won't be going deep in that, but maybe at some point, Lee, if you would like, we could maybe discuss it at some other occasion. But it's not a good idea to provide headers like that. Because in Next.js, we have this concept of a client code and server-side generated, right? And
Correct, yeah. In this instance, if this code is running on the client side and this is truly a secret, it's not a publicly exposed key, we would want to make sure that we are proxying that through the backend, and whether that's an API route or your own backend, such that your secrets are not exposed. Some services, have publicly accessible, like Stripe has, like the publicly accessible client-side key. But if it is truly a server-side secret, then yeah, we don't want to put that on the client side.
So the idea would be to, for example, create a route or a handler rather in API, Pages API, and use it to store it here and just provide it. I've seen when I was preparing for this episode, I've seen that people have questions about that. So maybe that could be a good topic for some other occasion. But for today, let me just go the simplest possible way to make it work. So just a caveat. Don't do this like that.
And certainly don't commit it to your GitHub repository.
Yeah,
that's a very bad idea.
Don't comment this. We are under the time constraint here, but it works. We are displaying the IDs of the cart, and now let's try to display, for example, the products that are inside. So with that, we have lines. And let me just, to go faster, I will use some snippet I have prepared in advance. And I'm cheating, but I know you are both very busy people, and I don't want to waste your time. So let me just use that. So don't have total price here, only lines. And we won't be displaying the user. And here we have an error. JS6 element class doesn't support attributes because it does not have a props property.
Did you forget to import the image?
Of course.
Now, image is a godsend. Maybe Lee, you want to talk about it.
I would love to hear about image, yeah.
Absolutely. So we've partnered with the Google Chrome team to help us take, all of the work that they've done on image optimizations, the work that they've done internally at Google for their own frameworks, and the work they've done on Angular and other frameworks, to advocate and bring that to open source in Nuxt, Angular, Next.js. These image components and image optimization to make your web pages load faster, automatically resize, maintain aspect ratio of images, and make it easier to have a fast website, essentially.
So I have the problem. Okay, so in order to make it work, I need to specify images domains under in Next.js Next config.js.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So we have a block list on domains by default, such that let's say you're using your Cloudinary as your image optimization service. if we didn't have that block list, somebody could, use your service to optimize their images. So we opt on the side of security here to let you explicitly define an allow list of which domains you want to allow to optimize images, because you might have a paid service back there.
That's perfect. And that's our application. So we have images and we have IDs. And I think it was a little bit longer than I expected, but I think it shows how easy it is to create such app. So we had a problem at the beginning, abandoned carts. We were able to query our API for that information to create the shape of the data we want as the output. And then in Next.js, we just used, along with Apollo client for GraphQL, we queried for that, we get the data, and we display the data using the image from Next image. And there you have it. I think we are done.
Right. It's not immediately useful, but you could use the same API to pull information like the email assigned to the checkout session, for example, and use that email to try to convince someone to continue with their checkout. You have the checkout ID, so you could pass the ID as part of the URL and have someone attempt to recover the cart if they click a link and so on.
So maybe, Patryk, we could describe the process or the iteration. It would be to go to the playground, adjust the query, adjust the shape of the query so that the shape of the data, the output is the way we want it. For example, you mentioned fetching emails. So we would have to just in lines, I'm sorry, not in lines, in Node, we would have to have user, right, an email.
You don't need a user. You should also have an email field that's on checkout level for anonymous checkouts that are not assigned to an account.
You mean here in Edges?
In Node.
In Node, yeah, it's in Node.
But not user, just email. User will be only there if someone was logged in when they've created this. But every checkout session that has an email assigned will also have it assigned here in the email field. And it could be different than the user email. I think in most cases it will be the same address. If someone is logged in, people don't usually change the address they use for the checkout session. Many UIs don't even offer this option. But this field, that will be filled both for anonymous checkouts and checkouts of people who have logged in, as long as we know the email address. And before you execute that query, please tell me that you control the checkout sessions that are there in the backend, and we're not going to expose someone.
I won't be executing that. So because this is the production instance, I mean production, this is a demo, but you can enter any. Yeah. So I don't want to expose any emails, but I just wanted to show an example that of potential process. So we change the shape, we get the data, we confirm that's what we want, and then we just paste it in our app here, and then we just extract it in this React component. And
right.
that's the
checkouts process. Should also have a token assigned to them, which would be crucial when you wanted to recover the checkout session.
Okay, so I have a token. And I could also, for example, ask for the price of the amount that was in the cart, right? With total price, for example. And I could get the gross amount. I think it would be 0 everywhere. No, 5. And this way 15. So this way we could also in our application display the amount of each cart. And finally, the last step would be to deploy it to Vercel with git push and to have it online. Let's see. I think because we are almost on time, so maybe let's leave that And let's maybe just quickly take a few questions if you are okay with that for the next few minutes.
Sounds great.
Maybe I can answer some questions together with Lee while you do the publish part.
Okay, so let me just ask the audience if there are any questions. Quick questions for Patryk. Okay, so there is this question. I won't be reading it. Please.
Right, so is it possible to sync users between Saleor and an external database? The answer is most likely that's not even necessary, because Saleor exposes some plugin endpoints to build authentication and possibly authorization outside of Saleor. So you could delegate those two and implement something like single sign-on if you want a shared database that you will use to authenticate in both services, or to talk to your other backend that you're building if you want your Rails-based app to act as a proxy. So my answer would be use those to either write a plugin or use the OpenID Connect plugin that is available in Saleor Cloud to just hook both apps to a single sign-on server. That's how I would build this.
So I'm trying to deploy the app on Vercel. So the first thing I'm doing is I need to explicitly, because I don't have access for all repositories. It's it's my little, how to say it. Yeah, so I always use selected ones. So in that case, I would need to first create abandoned cards. So it's already created. Let's just add everything. I have stream. Now I would need to first create it on GitHub. So new repository. Abandon 2. And let's add the remote. And let's push. So you should see it. Okay, and now on Vercel, we quickly create a new project. I need to whitelist this specific repository. So this will be abandon 2. Save. And import. And I just need to mention it to you, Lee. It's the experience is amazing. Like deploying the Next.js application in Vercel is perfect. It's just I'm clicking, and in a few moments, the app would be online.
Yeah, I'd love to talk through this a little bit more. Quickly, could you move the question off from Mark? Thanks, Mark. We appreciate the question. But yeah, appreciate the comment on this deploy flow. I want to give a big shout out to the Vercel team for putting in a lot of effort to iterate on this specific UI you're looking at. It seems simple, but it's from hours and months and many years worth of iterations to get it to the fact where you can easily hook up your Git repo and then have this live feedback as you fetch source code, use your cache, potentially build your site, and then end up deploying and getting a live URL for your code. So really, really happy with where this latest iteration is at. We're about to announce this more widely, what you're looking at right now. It's just recently been rolled out, but it's a huge, huge improvement on that experience.
And we can visit it. So
you might need to have, oh no, never mind. I was thinking you might have needed to add environment variables, but for this example, we've just got the hard-coded stuff for the
We hard-coded it, yeah, for simplicity. And we shouldn't do that. Remember, don't hard-code your...
Yeah.
Please don't.
Yeah, so I think we are done. It's almost exactly 1 hour, 4 minutes, 5 minutes almost. Once again, thank you very much for joining me in this live stream. Yeah, I know you're busy. You are at 2 great companies, and a lot of is happening there. So thank you again. And
Of course.
if
Thanks
there
for
are,
having me.
Yeah, thanks for
perfect.
having us.
With pleasure. And if there is more interest in this kind of content, let me know in the comments. And yeah, let's stop here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.